Hello, Mr. Ed here. Today is November 22nd, 2017, and as you can guess, I'm in the wood shop today. It's Thanksgiving week, and the shop's actually going to be closed the rest of this week. So I have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to be in the shop and to work on a project. And what I'd like to do in these next couple of days is actually we're going to start building our inner covers for our hives. I try to minimize the work involved in it, so I try to make it as simple as I can, and at the same time using with tools that almost everybody has, any hobbyist woodworker has in their shop. I'm not using any kind of special tools to do this, and anybody can do this. I believe I can build one of these boxes, one of these frames, probably in about 45 minutes, but since I've got 100 of them to do, it's going to take me a little bit longer than 45 minutes. So I've got all my materials. The framework I'll be using will be some spruce, number 2 spruce, just loaded up right here. I've got 17 boards of them, and I'll be using those things, cutting them to length first, and then after cutting to length, shaping them on the shaper, and then ripping them on the plywood to get my borders, and then after which some Luan plywood to put on as a centerpiece. Now, most of this stuff, all the Luan is all scraps that we have here in the shop. It's cut-offs from pieces that we're using for our coffins. So this stuff is getting put to good use. Also, what I've done is constructed a frame that I can actually assemble these boxes on. They actually will sit inside of this frame as I build it, so that it'll hold it for me while I'm shooting the staples in it, because I don't like putting staples in my hands. So with the grace of God, in the next 3 days I ought to have about 100 of these things built, and the video won't be that long, but we'll see if we can speed things up and show you the way I do it. I might give measurements and that kind of stuff, help y'all along do that. So let's wrangle and build inner covers. First thing I'm going to do is start getting my 2x4 material and cutting it to length, a little bit long. And I'm going to be cutting the long part of the board. The finished dimension on the boards is 19 7/8 or 20 inches. It'll work too. And so I've set my stop on the saw right here to 20 and 25/8 inches. So it'll give me a little bit longer than I need, but then it's not too much, so that when I start to cut it off, I'm not shaping and cutting extra wood, so just cutting almost the bare minimum of wood. So I'm going to start grabbing the 2x4s and start cutting them to length. Alright, so we got our long lengths of our inner cover cut right now, and what we're going to be doing with this is we cut them to length, and then we're going to go over to our shaper, and the shaper's got a straight bit on it, and we're going to actually just shape a little rabbet in this wood. It's going to be about 1/4 inch by about 3/4 of an inch rabbet on this edge of it, and then we're going to go over to the table saw and rip that sheet, rip the whole thing off, which will be 5/8 of an inch. And then we're just going to go back to the shaper and repeat it. So from one of these pieces of wood right here, we're actually going to get 5 sides out of it. So our finished measurement is 16 1/4 inches. So we're going to cut the next set of 2x4s to 17 inches. I've already got a little stop block already made. I'll set my stop right now. Alright, so the stop set, so I'm going to go ahead and start grabbing the wood and start cutting that up for here. Now all our pieces of wood are cut to length, to the long sides and the short sides. And I'm fixing to push the cart over to the shaper, set the shaper up. I'll show you the cutter that I'm using, and set the shaper up, and then we're going to set the table saw up at the same time, because we're going to shape and rip. I'm fixing to shape all of our piece of material for our inner covers. I want to show you the cutter that I'm actually going to be using. And all it is, it's a 5/8 of an inch straight bit. And the reason we're going to use a straight edge bit is because what we're going to be doing is taking our piece of wood and we're going to be shaping off 3/4 of an inch on the edge of this board right here, which will then become, this board will then become our actual width of our material that we build our inner covers with. So we're going to go half the distance of it, which is 3/4 of an inch, and then we're also going to go just the depth of our material, whatever material you choose. The glue one I'm using is 3/16 of an inch, so you have to go 3/16 of an inch. So I'm going to go ahead and set the shaper up right now and put the cutter in it and set all that stuff up so we can run this stuff. There it is. Let me grab the plywood. So this is what we've done. We've taken our straight edge and it's just going to make this little rabbit cut right here. That's all we're doing right there. And what's going to happen is our piece of Luan is now going to sit right inside of this, right there. And now you're going to have a flush fit on this thing. And then after we get all these things shaped, then we're going to go head over to our table saw and rip them off. Alright, so let's shape a bunch of boards. Now I finished shaping the two edges of the boards now. You can see how the boards are shaped on both sides. That way when I rip them on the table saw, I just turn it over and rip two out of the same one. So we're getting ready to head over to the table saw now and rip off these edges of our inner cover. I'm getting ready to cut the pieces that we've just shaped. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be cutting them at 9/16 of an inch from our shoulder right here. And when I finish cutting them, they're going to actually, this is what they'll look like, just like this. A piece just like that. 1 3/4 wide. It's going to be 9/16 thick. It'll have a 3/4 inch top here and a 3/4 inch plow right here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the dust collector and cut this one. That's what we got left. After we cut our shoulder off, and now this piece we're going to take back over the shaper and reshape it. So I'm going to cut up all those pieces I've shaped already and set them up. I finally got all of our pieces ripped and shaped. And the process that I did to do that was I would take a piece of 2x material, shape both edges of it, then go over to the table saw and rip it off. And the piece of material is wide enough that you're not having to worry about cutting your fingers, and I really don't like cutting my fingers. So it's wide enough to do that for the 2 times that you shape and cut it. By the 3rd time you do it, you're down to just a little narrow piece of wood like this. So when you come over to shape that, it's kind of like scary to put your fingers that close to the cutter. So I made a little fixture and I want to show you that how I do that little thing. And here's the setup that I use to run the narrow strips. And I start out by using a magnetic feather board, and this feather board will actually hold your material close to your fence without having to worry about getting your fingers underneath there and close to that cutter. And I set that fence, I just put my piece of material on the fence and I grab the feather board and I just push it up against it until I get pressure behind it. Then what I do is I built this little fixture right here, and all it is it's an edge with a stop on it. And what this allows me to do is to be able to, once I place the piece of material up inside of my fixture like this, I'll be able to take this little fixture and place it on top of it, slide it until it hits that stop, and at which point I can now put pressure down on it. My feather board is keeping pressure in. I can keep pressure down, and as I push the piece of material through, the feather board holds it in, and my hand, the pressure of my hand is holding it down so it doesn't bounce up. And then there's also no danger whatsoever of your hand going into your cutter. So this is a really good setup, especially if you like to keep your fingers. And the next part that we're going to get ready to do is to actually take our long sides of our inner cover, which are all these pieces right here, and we're going to actually start cutting them to length. I've already set the
the stop up already for to cut these things to length, and so it's just a matter of making a cut one way, flipping it over, sliding it down, and cutting it to length. So it's cut to length. What I've done is I set a block. This block right here is cut to the 45, and when I cut my first angle, that 45 matches up. So it's gonna be a dead-on stop. I've got the stops are set up on the saw itself, so I know this measurement is correct. So I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting this stack of wood right here.
I finally got all that wood cut up. That was some serious cutting. Over 800 cuts to cut up all this wood. We've got over 200 of each pieces, and you got 2 ends on each side. That's a lot of cutting. So we got them all cut, and next thing we're going to do is we need to find out how big we're going to cut our piece of luan to. So I put one into the frame right here. So we have our frame that we're going to actually build the inner covers on, and so the pieces are set in here, and this way I'll know the measurement for my length and my width of my piece of luan. So that'll be our next step, that I cut the luan. I'm not going to do that tonight. I'll do that tomorrow. So we'll pick it up cutting luan tomorrow. Well, not only have I cut all my luan to my length and width, but I've already drilled my hole in the center of it also. It's no big deal to cut wood. That's not a big thing, but I want to show you the little jig I set up on the drill press to drill the hole. I mean, there's 100 of these little boards right here, and I certainly didn't want to drill them one at a time, so I made a little fixture to drill. I think it was 5 or 6 of them at a time that I do it. So check this little fixture out I made. What I've done on the drill press is I just put screwed a backboard onto my base plate right here, and then just had a stop. I made a stop to make for the edge of the board to hit on. So what I can do is take my, I think I had five pieces of plywood, and I would set them up against the backstop and then push them up against the side stop, and that everything lines up. And then I'm using a 2-inch Forster bit on these things, and I just turn it on, and at one time, you know, I can do 5 of these boards at a time. So it really did speed things up a bit. I mean, it's only 20 times instead of 100 times, so it was a good deal. All right, so we got everything is cut to size. Our edge of the inner cover is cut, mitered on both ends, and now our piece of luan to cover the inside is cut also. So the next step to do is to start gluing these things up, and we'll go back over there and start doing that over there. And now it's time to actually start assembling our inner covers. And the first thing you notice is that I've taken my form board that I'm using to be the outside edges of my cover, and I've actually mounted it on my Lazy Susan again. I always try to use this Lazy Susan whenever I can, because it just helps me to turn this. It's easier to turn this than it is for me to walk around or flip the board. So this is stationary now, and I can just rotate it. The next thing I've got, I'm using 2 different kinds of guns. I'm using a 18 gauge nailer, and this one I'm shooting 1.25 inch brad. And this is going to be used to pin our corners of the frame. So when our pieces come together, I'll just pin the corners, and that's going to hold it. And then the next thing after I do that, I'll go ahead and shoot it with a 1/4 inch stapler. And this stapler that I'm using, I'm only shooting 1/2 inch length staples, or 1/4 inch wide, but only 1/2 inch long. The glue that I'm using a water, not proof, but water resistant glue to glue these things together. And that's about all that I'm doing with this. So I guess it's time to start gluing them together. The takes I've already, well, as you can see, I've already done a bunch of them already, mostly because I want to make sure I could do this without looking kind of crazy on the video. So I got a bunch of them done already, probably about 25 of them. And so it takes about 2.5 minutes to glue one of these inner covers together. So I'm going to show you how I do that. When I first put it in there, I
I want to make sure I get the corners lined up, because you still can get it out in that way. So as long as the two edges go in there, it's going to be good. And then I'm going to just put glue on these things. And I just put one line of glue on each end of these. After I do that, I'm going to go ahead and nail my corners. As long as my inside ledge is flush, I'm good. Corners are pinned. I'm going to go ahead and run just a line of glue to the inside along my track. Grab a cover, set it in there, and grab my staple gun. Gotta grab the staple gun, not the nail gun. And that's it. Inner cover done. Not much to it. And I believe in the material that all I had to really buy was the spruce for the outside piece of the 2x4s, and they were $87 for that. And all my glue on is just fall off that we have from doing our coffins here at the shop. So that wasn't a cost. So that I got $87 in this. I'll be building over 100 of these inner covers, and you know, if you buy them at Man Lake or Better Be or wherever, they're at least $11 to buy these. So I'm probably only going to have 50 cents in one of these things. So it is a lot easier for me to build them than for me to spend $1,000 and get them. So that's all I have for you on this one. So thanks for watching. I know this isn't a video that a lot of people have a lot of interest, but all us woodworker folks, we always like to see how the other guys is building their things. So thanks for watching. Keep on watching, and I'll be making more. God bless. Mr. Ed, I'm out of here until the next one.